Hello, everyone. It's Lady Tia here. I hope you are doing awesome. So, this is the Mom Care Coach. I am actually on video on YouTube. So, if you would like to see this actual episode, you can. So, that is so awesome to be able to do that. Technology is amazing, isn't it? It's my cat in the background. Um, so welcome to the Mom Care Coach. I hope that you are having an awesome day, and I hope that this episode blesses you. And if this is your first time, thank you so much for joining me today. Today is an awesome time for you to join me if this is your first time, because today we are talking about our 4 intentional needs of self-care as an autism mother. So we are laying the foundation. We are in the middle of laying the foundation for this year. So if you are a person that has some really important goals that you're wanting to accomplish this year in 2026, whether that is you have different goals you're wanting to achieve, intentions you're wanting to activate and put into your life, New Year's resolutions, it doesn't really matter. Whenever you're trying to achieve anything new, there's an importance that you must understand. We must have a foundation for something. We have to lay that foundation because sometimes we think to ourselves, things just magically happen, and the truth is that they don't. Especially if you're an autism mother or a mother of a child with a variety of different disabilities, your time is very precious because very little of it, most of the time, is really dedicated just to you. Most of the time is dedicated to that kiddo or to your family as a whole, or to other family members, therapists, doctors. There's so much going on as an autism parent. And so to take the time that you have is just for you and to implement something new, learn some new strategies or tips, that's a really big deal. So first of all, I congratulate you because it's hard to put new things into the life that you have when you're already so very busy. So that's one thing. The next thing I wanted to welcome you to is this whole idea of laying a foundation. And if you go over onto the podcast, Apple Podcasts for the Mom Care Coach, you will be able to learn more about how to do that. There are several episodes, new episodes that were just uploaded that has to do with laying that foundation for 2026, how to become consistent, looking at your morning and evening routines, and top 3 things I'd like to do better in 2026, to just name a few. And today we're going to talk all about your AM block and your PM block. So I do something called the 5-block time method, and that's how I schedule my entire day. Everything fits into these 5 time blocks. And last podcast episode, we talked about how the AM morning routine and the night routine, the morning routine and the night routine, they kind of mirror each other. It's all about you getting yourself established or getting yourself ready to get ready for bed and to prepare for that next day. And so today we're going to talk about the AM block and the PM block and how they mirror each other. Those blocks are all about service, serving your family, serving your heart out for your family, for whatever you got going on during the week. The morning routine and evening routine is serving yourself so that you're able to show up in the way that you want to for your family and for your life. So with this AM block and your PM block, I am hoping to also create this into a podcast episode. So if you're listening to this and not watching this, then you know that I did. And so that if you want to watch it, you can on the YouTube channel called The Mom Care Coach. The reason why is we're going to talk about planners. And we're going to talk about how we can put those 5 time blocking systems into a paper planner and how you can work from that. So I have just turned 49. It made 49 turns around this, what do you say? Not around the moon, not around the sun, maybe around the sun, but actually the sun has a new moon. Anyway, I've been on the planet a while, and I've learned a few things. And I'm going to be doing an upcoming episode about the top things that I have learned in these first 49 years. So that's something to look forward to. But right now, let's go ahead and get into the planners. So I'm going to show you the planner that I use. This is the planner that I use. Isn't it gorgeous? I put this little sticker here because I'm not on my computer. So look, here we are. Isn't it pretty? So pretty. So this is a pretty planner, right? It's not very effective unless you use it right. Yeah. So we're going to talk about how you can use it. And this was mine from last year. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you can kind of see it. But if you look at it, you'll see, look at this. This is just 2025's. And I'm going to show you this because to show you that it was well loved, friends. It was well loved. So much happened. And you can use your planner too. Paper planners are very, very effective. I know some people use more of a digital planner. If you use a digital planner, I am going to suggest maybe you could use both, but to just use digital, sometimes it works. It actually works different in the brain when we write something versus when we type something out. So if you use a paper planner, it's going to use actually a different part of the brain. And so I recommend using a paper planner. But if you must also use a digital planner, then you can use both. So, and what we talk about is that they can go in both. So last time I said we already talked about the morning and evening routine. I gave you some tips that you could use. She even shared with you what I do. Now we want to talk about the AM and PM block. They mirror each other. So first you have your morning routine. This is the time, ideally, you are, by yourself. Your kiddos are asleep. Although, if you recall, I did give some really great tips that even if your kiddos are not asleep and they are awake with you, then we can handle that as well. But the AM block and the PM block, the AM block comes next. This is where you're serving. I homeschool, so I'm homeschooling. This may be where you're doing your 9 to 5. This may be where you're doing your volunteer work. This may be where you help out with your parents. There's, a ton of things we can do, but it's that next chunk. Now, I have my morning routine. I also have an extra little block in there, and it's called the before school routine. But your next big chunk is your AM block. Now, the reason why we like to have a paper planner, we can add these things to it. Then when you're learning something new, it's nice to be able to see it, whether you have your phone or not on you. And, for me and a lot of mamas like myself, we work really hard to be present. And sometimes the phone can get in the way of that. So we all have to, have a way to connect with other people, to, call and text and all of that. But it's also really important to be really present with your family and with whatever it is you're actually doing. And so I actually traded in my smartphone last fall. Was it last fall? Yes, last fall, late summer, for a flip phone. Now, this is not for everybody, but it's a Barbie flip phone, and it really is effective with only calling people, receiving calls from people, and texting people. That is it. That is it. Just had a moment of my Missouri Southern accent coming out, but that is what I use it for. I use my computer for my work time. I use my planner really for everything else. What do I keep in my planner? My 5 time blocks are kept in my planner. My, what else? Just want to make sure we're recording. Yes, we are. My five time blocks, I also keep phone numbers in here. I also keep important information in here as well. Important information that you want to be reminded of, that you want to remind someone else of. Maybe if you're going to therapies or certain things you want to remind them of. I carry it with me. So I have a size that fits in my purse so that I can carry it with me if there's, babysitters or respite workers, doctors, therapists, IEP meetings, um, teachers, counselors, psychiatrists, neurologists, everyone. I can add whatever I need to in this planner. Covers everything. So that's awesome, and I'm grateful for it, thankful for it. Okay, so I haven't always been a person that was pro planners. I've always been into planning, but I didn't always feel like I needed a paper planner. And what I have realized, I have been using a paper planner now for like consistently the past few years, and meaning like I did 2024, but I didn't use it as much. And then 2025, I used it a lot. And then now this one. So this is my third paper planner with this particular company. It's by Horatio Printing. And I really, really like it. So let me share a little bit. So, like I said, all that important stuff I already mentioned to you that I keep in here. But now let's talk about how we can place our AM and PM routines in this paper planner. So first, there is like a month at a glance. So I go ahead and do that. And the first thing I recommend before you do your AM and PM blocks, most of the time, a morning routine is you actually getting ready for your day. And most of the time, a nighttime routine is you kind of putting the day to bed and um, preparing for that next day. So when it comes to your AM block and your PM block, and then also a work block, if you have that, those are things that may change, right? You may have appointments, you may have different things that you're doing. So the first thing I recommend, you find your week at a glance, and you write like a brain dump. So in this brain dump, you're going to write down everything that's on your heart and mind, things that are, needs to happen that week and that month and that year. You're going to write it all down, whatever you're thinking about, to get it out on paper so it's not kind of stuffed inside of you. After you do that, you're going to look at everything that's on there, and you're going to organize it. Everything that needs to happen somewhere in the year, you're going to flip to it where it needs to be in that month, and you're going to write it in the month at a glance. Okay, this tip is really helpful. Then after that, everything that needs to happen the month that you're in, write it down like in that month at a glance for that month. Then you're going to organize whatever needs to happen that week. You're going to think about where does it need to happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Where does it need to happen? Once you get to that day, you're going to write down about the time that needs to happen. So you do your brain dump, then you're going to organize everything where it needs to go. And then you're going to timestamp it, what needs to be done that day or week or however you do that. After you do that, now we're going to look at our actual AM and PM block. Obviously, that's usually like once a week, right? I have some pretty strong ADHD. I like to do a brain dump every day because then it gets whatever's in my head out on paper. And then organize that in the day to have some thinking time so that you have time to actually do it. Then, what do you need done for your AM block and your PM block? The things that don't change, then you're going to add that right into the planner. Things that do change, those are the ones that need those timestamps because it could be different. Let me give you an example. AM block for me is when I homeschool. Okay. And I have that. So my morning routine, and then we have our before school routine. That's me getting my boys help with their morning routine, our breakfast, devotions, our morning meeting. We're talking about what we're actually going to do that day. And then that AM block goes straight into homeschool. And that generally doesn't change so much for me unless I have appointments. But I try to get appointments done at a particular time. Sometimes you're not able to, but for the most part, I like to do it at a particular time. And then another tip, work with what your best part of the day is for you, when you have the most energy and bandwidth. So for me, I have the most energy between when my kids are awake, it's between 10 and 3. However, I've always been a night owl, and now I try not to be because it does not serve me as a mother. But in the evenings, the late evenings, that is when I have my work block because that works for me and our schedule. So when there are things that I need to get done, like appointments and stuff, it's really during that morning to afternoon block. So between the AM and PM block. But that's me. You need to work out with you. When is your best times, when you have to get the most energy? Then think of that whenever you're doing appointments or recurring events that take a lot of emotional energy. And then you're going to put that in there. So that makes things pretty simple because it gives you a way of being consistent. It gives you a way to be consistent and also gives you a way to stay on task. You know every day what you're doing for your morning routine. You know every day what you're doing for your before school routine. And then your AM, PM block is when you're serving. I'm doing homeschool. Maybe you're working your 9 to 5. Maybe you are volunteering, whatever you're doing at that time. And then you have your PM block. That PM block may be your after school block. It may be your rest time for your kiddos, which is what I do. It may be, let's see, what else do people do besides that? It may still be at work. It may be when you take a break. All of that is in your planner. And then after your PM block, what do you have? Okay. For us, we go into that nighttime routine for my boys. So they're get ready with me nighttime routine. And in that routine, there's baths, there's dinner. They have some playtime. They do a little bit of artwork and different things as I am like cleaning and prepping things. And then, I get them ready for bed. And we have our time together where we do a devotion. I sing some relaxing songs for them while they're in bed, all of this stuff. And then that's when I do my work time after that. So think about what it is that you do. Now, in your schedule, you want to have some cleaning blocks, like some tidy cues anywhere that takes like 5 minutes to 15 minutes. What are some things that you do every day? Do you do the dishes and laundry every day? For me personally, doing dishes and laundry every day is a lot, but that's what I do and I can manage. For bigger projects, bigger cleaning projects, I call them zone cleaning projects. I got the terms tidy cues and zone cleaning from Chelsea Jo and looking at her 5-block system. And I tweak it to work in my schedule and how I function. But yeah, that's what I do. Then what you can do after that, you have your weekly plan kind of laid out, and it makes it so much easier. So basically, you have your AM and PM block, they mirror each other, meaning that's where you're serving. you have your morning routine and your morning routine and your nighttime routine is where you're serving yourself, you're helping yourself, you're doing your self-care. You just in the way of how to get ready and how to de-stress and how to get ready for bed, kind of thing. So you're doing all of that. And then somewhere, if you have a 9 to 5, or if you have um, um, trying to start a business, or you have a business, or you work remotely, or however you do that, then that's like, where you would do like your work. Sometimes those overlap. If you work remotely or outside of the home for a long stretch, but for those that have a separate work block, a lot of times it's more that you're trying to start something new, or you already have something new, but it's more part-time. Okay. Now, we talked about last episode on the podcast, um, how you can decide how long you want your morning routine and your nighttime routine to be, depending upon how much time you have. With the AM block and your PM block, a lot of times those are set. It's usually a couple hours. We don't really do blocks less than an hour, just because you want dependable time and you want to be able to put the things that you need to put in there. Also, it's okay to create like habit stacks, meaning for my morning routine, when I get up and I go to the restroom, I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to wash my face, I'm going to do my hair, I'm going to put my scarf on, I'm going to get dressed. I am going to do all the things that I need to do as a stack so that I can move on. And it also kind of, when you have a stack of something, you do one, you keep flipping, like you're flipping cards. Think of it like that, because then this is what we do. Do this stack, and do this stack, because what that does, it kind of just helps you with consistency. You get overwhelmed, or you have a lot of stuff going on, or maybe something really big is happening in your life and you have a routine stack. It's something you do consistently, and you do one after another, after another, after another, and that's going to help you to stay on task, which is really important. So that's how we do the AM block and the PM block. Now, as I said, for the work block, that is something I do in the evening. So everybody's different. Everybody's home situation is different. When my kiddos were really little and I would have to do my work block, or sometimes they were awake, that could be really challenging. But if that is your case as well, go back to the episode where I talk about the morning routine and what tips of what things they can do while they're up, while you are doing that morning routine at the same time. That's kind of the similar thing. And, that can be very helpful if you're thinking about those things. So to wrap up, there's 5 time blocks. And now I want to go into very quickly our 4 intentional needs. So, our 4 intentional needs are sleep, nutrition, mindset, and movement. When you have your paper planner, you can actually, I have a little space where it says weekly intentions. I write those down in there, and I make sure that I'm hitting those throughout the week as well. And I'm giving a set amount of time per one. So sleep, I like to get 8 hours. That's the goal. That's the goal. But honestly, it is dependent upon the season that you're in. And nutrition, how many hours does it take when it comes to meal prep and meal planning and weekly planning for you? You think about that and make sure you're putting that in the week so that you are taking time for yourself to do that. Mindset. Is there a book that you'd like to be reading every week to help you to create the mindset that you want, especially as you lay the foundation to be successful in all the different areas that you want to be successful in? Also, mindset, personal development books, but also affirmations, creating a yearly vision for yourself. You can do a vision board. You can have a written vision that you're wanting to do for yourself. That's really helpful too. all of that can go under mindset. And then movement. What are you choosing to commit to when it comes to exercise? Is there I love Pilates, Lindy Well. It's an online platform, and you have exercises that you can do anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes every single day. You can choose it. It also has like nutrition, it gives you different meal plans that you can look at, and different meals and all the different recipes. It has all the ingredients and everything with it. Um, and then also it has the breath work sessions that you can choose as well. So that is something I enjoy, but you can also think for yourself which kind of movement options you like. So with those four intentional needs, you want to make sure that you have that in your planner. That is something that I think is really important. And it's easy to not even think of it that way, because things that we accomplish are generally planned for. Things that we don't plan for, you know, if you have a goal but you haven't really planned for it, it's really hard to hit it. And generally speaking, no one becomes accidentally successful in any area. So I hope that this has been a lovely and educational episode for you. Remember, you can go back on the podcast to the episode before this. It talks about the morning routine, nighttime routine, and gives some different tips of that as well. If you're wanting to get one of these kind of planners by Horatio Printing, I will have to link my information under there. And then, yeah, I look forward to talking to you next time. And we have a couple episodes coming up that I am planning. One for things I've learned in my first 49 years, and then also how to fatigue buster yourself. A lot of times we can get mental fatigue, and I talk about how we're going to be just thinking once about things and moving on so that it creates more momentum and also less brain space to have to, that whole decision fatigue over and over again is challenging. So I hope that you're having a great day. I hope that this has been very helpful for you, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you so much. Bye bye.